Hello, good morning. I spent a little bit of time watching and referencing, let's say, Audrey Hepburn movies. I did a chronological sort of watch, did little sketches, and seen if I can do a little extra activity to all of them. And this is what this vlog is. It's not a series, it's more of a mini vlog. Um, but I thought it was something lovely to do. Right, I spent time sketching like about a page long sketches while watching, really, so very loose, not particularly good. So did that based on the movies watched, and basically based on the dates. So first one was Roman Holiday, and the character that we follow actually really hates certain words, including schedule, duty, and she's a royal family. She's like a princess and has big shoes to fill. And funny enough, there is an entire scene where she slips out of her shoe and gracefully slips back in. And obviously, there's a lot of routine, and we watch her sort of getting to sleep in her pajamas. And she was telling about, oh, you know what? People sleep naked in some places. So she then recited her schedule. Basically, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in each of these because obviously it's a very close sort of reference. And she gets like crackers and has a breakdown, which I thought is sort of funny. Um, anyway, after her first sort of changes, really, she cuts her hair. I think one of the first ones, she gets stripy pajamas, and I think that's one of the first sort of change marks. Then she also sort of, after getting haircut, celebrates her freedom, drinks champagne, which she says is highly unusual for her. Anyway, there's a lot of different cameras, and I wanted just to note that there was a girl with a camera, then was a little lighter camera and a proper like reporter camera of that time. Let's see what else we said. Oh, it's a little sort of bittersweet story because it's about wishes. There is wall of wishes and other sort of visitable places, including the sculpture of lies, wall of lies, and which I think one of the most known scenes in this, when we put their hand in the wall and says, if you lie, it's gonna bite your hand off. And it's funny because both of our characters are liars in this situation. Obviously, what else we notice, it's a bit of bittersweet because it still returns back to responsibility and sort of, that's why it's called Roman Holiday. It's really just a little glimpse of freedom, a little holiday, and going back to sort of routines and schedules. As I started watching these movies, this was probably one of my favorites because it is a bit of sad in that sense. Yeah, and rebellious at the same time. After watching Roman Holidays and Sabrina, I was like, oh, we have Italy and we have France, and I decided to cook something. And I don't know why, but I decided to make focaccia. So making some focaccia, it suits Italian spirit, a flour and yeast, and we can add salt, mix it, and add warm water. A little lump of bread, lump of bread. I didn't find sprigs of rosemary, so it's just like small little herby things. Let's see what happens. Almost believable, I would say. Right? Right. I watched Sabrina, and it's very interesting character build-up. We see her in Tree watching the rich, happy family, in love with a rich boy, the son of a house. But the beginning of the movie reveals the wishes, and we go back to the wishes and the back of what the character wants. She writes a letter which is a suicide letter because she has unrequited love to this rich man. I draw some sort of proof show of her dress, which was all flowers. Anyway, so the ponytail, and she's like innocent girl watching how rich people party, and from her childhood she remains in love with this man. Then the champagne and champagne glasses, and even that like a volleyball net is quite important symbols there. Basically, there are certain characteristics and certain routines that rich boy does, and he puts glasses in his pockets, goes with a champagne to the gym to propose or woo the girl. Either way, so we have Sabrina. I also bought a fish tank because she feeds her fishes before sort of considering attempting suicide. Either way, and then she ends up going to Paris to learn cooking, become a chef. It's just line of pants. Interesting, there was a window that shows like Eiffel Tower and snowed over. She can't even crack the egg or do a souffle. Everything falls for her there. It's not going very well. And then we see her grow as a character and return all gathered. So I draw like she has this gathered hat where all her hair are hidden, and she doesn't have ponytail as she did while cooking or what she did before. She has short hair, and she even says that like she's gonna be this stunning dame when her dad comes to pick her up. I did try to draw this hat from behind, either way, but she actually meets this boy, David. And interestingly, hats definitely represent people. So David has the bright hat with some sort of patterny strike over it. It looks more like a straw hat. He's very sort of relaxed and inconsiderate almost. So basically his habit of having glasses and champagne, he sits on the glasses. That was one of the things I remember from the first time watching it. He sits on the glasses and hurts his bum, and basically lies in this hammock sometime of the movie, which has hole for his bum, and I just wanted to draw it. But his brother steps in and trying to separate this relationship, and we're quite not sure about his motivations, but I think he definitely likes Sabrina as well. So he steps in and takes her on a boat ride. She wears this patterny plated, almost, how do you say it? Plait, a shirt and very short, bright shorts. And this is just a tiny bit of a boat. There's a rope, like very small memory. But the brother Linus, I believe, he has his symbols, and we even mentioned it's forbidden in Paris if he does go there. Hat, an umbrella, and a suitcase. Our hat again is very important. We have wedding planner, and I thought I'm gonna draw her hat as well because it's very wide brim. It has a ribbon in it. There is also the dad and gentleman of this rich society who just puffing their cigars away, but basically black and white attires definitely looks like a certain crowd. This is a dress that Sabrina wears to come back and win back David, really. And time he actually sits on the glasses. And obviously there's I didn't draw much of the final chances of the movie. There's a lot of conversations in the boat with a brother about relationships and how he looks like he doesn't belong to anyone. I thought this was just lovely, like his lone wolf almost. And she tries to break with him over telephone. I think she falls in love with her brother to some degree. It's hard to say. She's definitely very confused. She says she doesn't understand her feelings because she loved David all her life, and now suddenly new man trying to win her. And she said, I thought you actually liked me. I thought you were going to travel with me. But actually, it's about betrayal because Linus tells her that he was planning to go with her, woo her, pretend to go with her to Paris, but actually send her alone. There's also a big growth thing showing that she makes him a souffle, which she actually struggled to do in the first instance. So I think I love how the symbols and specific codes of the characters and how we can see the growth from appearance and from actions such as making souffle, not only from main plot parts. I would love this to see this as a revenge story, that she comes back to just get the revenge that she was not liked or something. Stunning dress and looking stunning, being smart, learn new skills, and shows that she's up above the league. But here we are. We have a bit of different story, and actually there's very little of David in this because he's been pushed out by his brother. So here we are. Yeah, so this is what we have of it. And let's try to make souffle. I even did a ponytail like the Sabrina. She was all ponytail in the beginning. Either way, let's try to make souffle because it really represents Sabrina in a way. I never made it before and honestly didn't even have a dish, so got the dish and we tried to make it. We're gonna try melt it in microwave. About a minute of melting time. So, eggs separated plus some shells that dropped in. Try my best, but vanilla is my best friend. All is a mixture with egg yolks and a bit of pinch of salt and that butter and everything. Yay! The hardest part comes. Maybe it's not enough, but I'm tired and I feel like it's pretty good with just doing it with hands. So I'm gonna add some sugar and keep eating. So my peaks didn't really cover very well with the chocolate, right? But we're gonna transfer it to the dish and bake only 15 minutes. Probably not gonna turn out right. So this is what we have, and we're gonna be eating it with ice cream. Yay! Souffle hasn't turned out well at all. It was soft and not baked through. I think that first of all that ingredient amount was probably meant for a bigger portion generally, so it might not cook through properly. Second of all, it is within the spirit of a movie to fail the souffle, so I was not, surprised or upset. Obviously also because I was like whisking with my hand is probably not helping in that situation because the peaks might not have been as great. Either way, I wasn't too upset about it. My first try is overcomplicated dish, and I also opt out to do a chocolate one. So, yeah. Do give me tips and tricks though. I just wanted to say that I really like this opening, all the colors and like at the same time simplicity of them. I loved it. It definitely shocked me after all the black and white movies. Funny Face, 1957 production, right? It's gone into full color and Technicolor, and it's really wonderful. It's about fashion, and it starts with a song about pink, and about how fashion companies looking for a place to shoot and feeling uninspired, and we bounce into this library which is very grey. We tarnish the books around. Has even I drawn the sofa because even the surroundings, that even the furniture grey, and there is the grey librarian. Either way, when they shoot there, obviously there are some colors and wonderful, and we pick up Audrey, who is great librarian, to be their model, the face of a journal. I also like how we attack her with these scissors that look like cutting for ribbon. They are massive, just to trying to cut her hair. She also has very weird dance. Once we go to Paris, she has very weird dance, so I just wanted to incorporate that little black outfit with a dance. When obviously we do a lot of shoots with different feelings. But first of all, she gets out of a cocoon, like we see caterpillar getting out of a cocoon is bird of paradise, and it starts with a pink dress. I have to say that bird of paradise coming out of cocoon is not my phrasing. It comes from the movie. And then she gets through all these shoots in the Paris. Fishing, heartbroken, furious, in theater, something else. A wedding scene. There's a big wedding outfit scene and the balloon scene where she should be happy. Either way, always a transformation from gray to the colorful. And not as much hair, but a lot of hats, I would say, in this one. In Vent, it's still a romantic plot. She falls in love with a photographer, gets disappointed by her previous ideals, let's say, whatnot, but not as heavy of a plot as...
I wanted to say that I mostly was impressed with Technicolor, and I actually found these postcards that originally inspired me to do a vlog for Audrey Hepburn, really. So I thought, why not? Let's just color them. It's a bit of silly, but again, they are laminated too, so technically it can actually be scrubbed off, the paint. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna have a bit of fun and color them. Again, no reference in colors or anything, it's just really whatever. And I definitely noticed that I'm doing not really good with reference, because then jewelry that was supposed to probably represent Tiffany, I kind of colored yellow a little bit, though, we're probably looking at silver tones and whatnot, and clear white or whatnot. Either way, yeah. I was just playing with paint, but I thought it was lovely, different activity for this.
Now, Breakfast at Tiffany's 1961 production is definitely my least favorite one for some reason. It's about the girl who loves Tiffany's. Nothing bad can happen in a place like that. But she really not cover her priorities, I would say. Like lots of partying, lots of drinking, looking beautiful. That's basically it. There is a cat who has no name and it's a stray. And there's a big theme, but about this, she's like the Audrey character is like stray. No one belongs to anyone. Also, she said something about people being judged by earrings, and there's a scene where she's picking earrings. Her phone is in the luggage. It's sort of that avoidance of responsibility. Again, big thing about hats. There's a decorator as well, and I draw a decorator's dog for some reason. But it's not really decorator, it sounds like. There is some sort of relationship with the main guy. There's also party people. They had Audrey was smoking this long cigar, let's say cigarette. I don't know how you say pipe, and it was basically putting the ashes and almost putting on fire one of his turbans. I think it really much reflects that lack of responsibility for own actions. There was another favorite type of hat. The main boy character is a writer, so there is typewriter, some of items from his apartment. There's a big thing about Audrey originally goes to his apartment wearing the robe, like nightgown or like bathrobe. Oh yeah, I did. And there's another scene of her singing in a towel. So she's either very beautiful or either very like ungathered at the same time. So there's a scene where she sings Moon River, and I think that's the main like scene of this movie almost. Again, Moon River is about dreamers, and the entire atmosphere about this movie is about dreamers. Otherwise, it's also about this generation of partying. Then there is a scene where she like drinks in a tub. She also has some sort of prison visits where she talks to people and wasn't realizing that she's actually passing messages on like drugs or whatever. I don't think she realizes that. Um, Either way, then there is Lost Husband where she left because she loves wild creatures. So, like she said to him, like you love wild creatures, but you can't love wild creature. Again, same sort of theme. I didn't really like at the end. The main guy gives her a ring which was engraved at Tiffany's because Tiffany's is a dream place apparently. And it says, I love you and you belong to me. And it felt too forceful and I had to write it down because it's just so bad. Either way, so the big team at the end, why the name is Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I think Tiffany's reveal the dreams, and the dreams is a generation who dreams have no responsibilities. Again, repeating that, but really not working towards their dreams. That's my point, right? They're really not moving towards it. So she goes, steals. We go basically doing about things that we never done before because we had champagne in the morning and say let's do things that we haven't done before. We go to Tiffany's as well. I think one of the things in the morning. They also go to the shop and steal some masks. What else is there? They go to library. He signs some books. The guy. Also, there is a scene a bit later that she was looking at the books and saying how to marry rich. What is it? South America, land of wealth and promise, and yeah, it tells you everything. It's all about just fake dreams, really, which obviously doesn't live on much. And also there is a big scene with a cat. I wanted to do like a rainy boxes here, but it doesn't go through very well. Where she in the end acknowledges that people can belong to each other and whatnot, but like in a sense there is very little character development, and only the scene with a cat basically shows very little bit of growth, but very little character development. The character is not likable at all, and like flaky a little bit. So I really didn't like that. And in terms of that sort of completion of a movie, it just felt ungathered.
In response to the Breakfast at Tiffany's, I wanted to draw my own cat in the rain, or like paint, entire painting, and it was obviously not at all referencing Breakfast at Tiffany's. Otherwise, it was literally just cat, rain. That's what I'm gonna go with. Later, this became a like a postcard for February, I believe. So here we are. No, I'm sorry. This was for March, and I took my free time to paint. It was a bigger canvas as well. I just left you for little glimpses of the progress. I actually recently found out what I like. Adding details with crayons on top of the paintings. I honestly never would have thought of that beforehand. Uh, so, you just see a little bit of that process, really. And this is, I believe, closer to finish because I see the crayon lines. So this was one of the closer to finish, and obviously the later version is on digital. This is perfect time for commercial break. I am actually made stamp cards for sort of these reference vlogs. So as you watch, you can collect and put on stamps. It's gonna be in the link on description. So please do check out.
Let's do some charade today. Coming into this movie without knowing anything about it, never seen it before. So, popcorn time. Okay, so Charade, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's gonna go into my favorite ones, but basically, the further along we're going with these movies, we're getting longer. What started with like 90 minute small movie, becoming closer to 2 hours. I love how the opening was a bit more groovy. It was like colorful, like shapes, whatever. Now Charade is about a lady. I think her name is Reggie, who basically finds out her husband is dead, and a government person tells her that her husband had many passports. Now, funeral is bizarre. It's very small. There's a little coffin here. It's really small, but there is several people coming around and checking if a dead person is really dead. So someone brought a hand mirror, put it in the nose. Someone brought a pin and just stabbed a dead body. Either way, there's also this dark figure that comes out of a corner to meeting the widow, let's say, but not at the funeral. I think on a separate occasion. He's called Peter. Yeah, and it's very interesting shading done that like you can't see face, you can't see anything, you can see it's a suit, you can see it's all dark. I love it. It's very, very special effect. Either way, this lady is being told by this government officer that basically her husband and three other people stole like I believe half or quarter million from the government, and I think it's a quarter, and basically kept it in after World War II and whatnot, and basically now are trying to keep it back for themselves, but no one knows where the money is, and basically her husband must have been killed for the search of that money. And then we basically find that there are three men, all of them that were in the funeral. One is basically she meets in the bar with this orange game. So I just said orange man. The other one is basically throwing matches in like telephone booth at her that are still burning. It's pretty scary and intimidating actually. And the other has this like tool-like looking hand replacement. So that's like for distinct characteristics that we have of them. Now later on, she gets attacked by this man with her hand basically, and Peter uses string of his sock to sort of like track if she ever leaves the room, and we find out that Peter is not a simple man either. He's somehow in with them. Anyway, she hides while luring him into a taxi, and she says women make best spies or something of that sort, and I really love that. Either way, I don't want to retell the entire plot, but either way, she gets very suspicious of everyone. And I also wrote phone booths and elevators because most of the action is like in confined spaces, and I wonder if that's what it is about spy movies, telephone booths and elevators. Honestly. Either way, there is also like one boy taken hostage. There are some injuries. This is my take on Peter. Whatever. There is like little scene with this injury. Whatever. But we find that Peter is not Peter. He's Alexander. Or later on, we find another. Like there's 5 names in total going through the show, I believe. Either way, they then accuse each other. Everyone, whoever has the money. It's more, money becomes more like a puzzle or a game of that sort. Now people start dying. Like I used to say that if there is a dead body in the show, in the movie, it's a good movie. So here we are. There are dead bodies. So I really enjoyed it. There is that body in the bathtub, and like bathtub is leaking through. Then we have another dead body in the elevator. Also one of them was suffocated. Either way, I liked my favorite scene where Peter, whatever Alexander man, is taking a wash with a suit, and it's sort of for funsies, for jokes, really, this way of flirting almost, and it's just so cute and funny in a sense. I know it makes no sense. Yeah, let me think. We get very close together anyway, this Peter man and our main girl, and becoming a sort of romantic story. We learn he might be a crook, whatever, and there is this other officer from the beginning who she was talking to, that apparently he's not really an officer. Anyway, that's a big spoiler, but I really loved the show. Also, speaking of elevators, narrow spaces, the end is in the theater, and she's like in this little behind the theater space beyond the theater space hiding. So yeah, narrow spaces, honestly, the key is. So actually then the big part on the stamps, and it's lovely. Either way, sorry, all the spoilers, because show like movie like this, it's all about the how it's done, right? So it's not possible to tell without spoilers. But basically I really enjoyed it. It was really topping into favorites for me at the moment. Let's see what else happens because there's a couple more. But yeah, it was lovely. I probably the only one that I watched without a stop. Well, the other ones I kind of watched in crunches. This one I watched without a stop, all in. That was lovely.
I made a miniature, I don't even know, stamp, little telephone, black telephone, and a match in the matchbox to reference it.
So the next one was My Fair Lady. It starts in after opera in a heavy rain with a flower girl selling flowers. You see a lot of umbrellas. There's this man, professor. At first I wrote inspector. I didn't quite knew. I've never seen My Fair Lady before. So professor, but definitely just like an inspector with a book writing some sort of scribbles. Anyway, so uh, then we go back. The flower girl returns to her flower market. I like how in the morning everything sort of is revealed, like flowers and whatnot. And she realizes that she could become more polished, let's say. So she has this like feather hat and whatever, bit of sooty appearance, and she comes to see this professor to improve her speech. The funniest things, he's using like tuning forks, obviously gramophone, but he's also using like musical instruments. And I thought, I'm sorry, I'm not very musical, so I thought like I don't really understand how is it possible to learn. I thought he was pretty rubbish teacher basically. Either way, there's other elements in there, but I think she's mostly bragged by chocolates and treats to actually continue with it. There's a lot of like resistance and difficulty. Bath. There is a first time taking bath scene as well. And in any how she becomes a bit more polished, more like a lady. I really didn't like the show because I felt like it made fun of like accents almost. And it was pretty rude and sexist and like everything all wrapped into one. So if Mary Poppins is in trouble at these years, these shows would be even more so. Wanted to definitely say. We also see the balding side, and I wanted to include it because that's where our protagonist's dad hangs about. It sounds like. Either way, what else is there? And she always said in the beginning, "I'm a good girl. I am." And honestly, yeah, it was all just like education parts, really. And then there was this conversation where it's like, she said that you should treat a lady like a flower, and so on. So here we are. And then obviously I think there's a lot of like the professor side is more libraries, that side is like building sites. Honestly, that's why I thought to include it really. Old phones and all that sort of little aesthetics, let's say. Sure, and honestly, it's a bit disjointed, and I didn't quite like the end of it. And I think the structure of a story generally quite falls apart the further we go into these movies. So it wasn't my favorite. Let's say big hats. This is when she made the debut in the society. She was wearing this big hat with like a bow and whatnot. So like yeah. So a lot of big hats in these movies.
Originally, I wasn't hoping to do like little artwork for this movie, but then I was also very uninspired for this one, and I just made a little Lego miniatures. I made a little bookshelf for representing the man and his environment, you know, the library, whatnot. There's at the bottom there's even like a bird frame. Because there was definitely some of those, like a cage. And then for the lady, I made a flower crate because obviously, like I say, one of the scenes was opening of these crates and whatnot. So here we are.
Now, I did enjoy How to Steal a Million. This is the last show actually I watched. It's all about paintings. It's about this man who can fake paintings and artwork. And obviously he draws like I think Van Gogh, but originally he sold like a Cézanne as well, I believe. We were talking about this. Either way, there is his daughter as well. And there is a closet, which is actually a door, and I just wanted to draw it anyway. And there's a big fluff about the sculpture, basically, that is also made based on her grandmother, but is basically a fake sculpture of the famous classical work, and it basically comes into museum and is about to be tested. So they are about in a big trouble. Sorry for the spoilers, but anyhow, so she also meets this thief who's trying to steal the painting, and then it turns out that we start to collaborate to steal the sculpture, basically. Either way, again, I like to march how we appear in certain situations. If you notice, there's obviously the training was that you gotta be a scrub lady. There was a bucket and a silly hat. Anyway, there is also the scrub room. I don't know how you call it, but basically it's a number 4 key. So, and they even say in front of this painting of an old man, we say this is a point of no return, and I love how we say it in shows, honestly. So then obviously we get locked into the closet for cleaning supplies, really. And they use this little flying thing to trigger the alarm and whatnot, and someone gets finally bothered and turns off alarm. But it's pretty clever. There's a lot of other sort of things like magnets, string, pins, like all sort of things they use as a tools. That was funny. The guards, it's all about drinking and cards. It's like just shows how incompetent we are, and I know in old movies we tend to really show that. But there's also one guard that had mustache, and he was like, when he's happy, he like twirls it up, and when he's sad, he twirls it down, and it was so cute but silly. Anyway, lots of drinking from their side of things. There was later in the situation, there was a reveal where we know that basically we find out that the thief, that they organized this crime together, that the thief actually is not a thief, but whatnot, and it was their first robbery, but they were successful, whatnot. It was kind of sweet. And we managed to get out of the trouble. So it was light on nice movie in the same sense, and yeah, and it's a bit silly, but also digestible. So yeah, here we are. Oh, there was also another guy who's playing catch with a ring. I really hated that. Anyway, but I mentioned really dialogue forms or anything, normal human reactions, and that's what we based on. And one of the situations was where we dropped the newspaper and the coins flipped over, and all the people started picking it up because normal human reactions, and that's really what the show was a lot relying about.
I wanted to reference a sculpture and draw a painting, but also make it my own. So I referenced Ferdinando Andreini's Spring, and just for the hands, really, and it wasn't very accurate, but then I wanted to do a different backdrop and sort of reflect not only spring, but some hope. Alright, so this concludes my mini vlog. Thank you for watching. Do follow through because I'm going to have some other reference vlogs at
a different sort of depth, let's say. So this one is definitely a mini one, but there might be other ones that might be a bit more thorough. Um, yeah, thank you for being here. Leave me a comment. Tell me which movie is your favorite, and if you know any, because obviously we're all pretty old. But I had my share of experience in this, and sometimes it's nice to do something like that. Join me next time. Bye.